Welcome to today's forum for the candidates for City Council from Wards 1 and Ward 2. My name is Sam McReynolds. I'm a professor at UNE and coordinator of the Office of Citizenship and Civic Engagement. Today we'll be having a forum with our candidates brought to us by UNE students, where we'll be answering several questions. Our format will be to answer a question with a time frame and allow each candidate to then respond. Each candidate will have an opening and closing statement. And we will begin in a moment with those statements, but first we're going to introduce our panel and our students, and I would like to thank Public Access for hosting us today and doing this in association with UNE to bring us today's forum. So let us begin. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Mike Swanton, 110 Old Pool Road, Ward 1 Councilor for Biddeford.
Mr. Peaker.
Ron Peaker. I live at 4 Winter Harbor Lane down in Biddeford Pool, and this is my second run at the council for election to the council, and I'm happy to be here.
John McCURRY from Ward 2, live at 197 Cleve Street for the past 30 plus years. Served on the city council from '99 for 8 years. Throw my name back into the hat again, see where we end up.
David Bourque, City Council Ward 2, two-term councilor, and I live at 30 DeCarry Road, Biddeford. Been there about 20 years, and look forward to serving further. Thank you.
Okay. Mike?
I'm Mike Allen. I'm a senior at University of New England. I'm a business major, and I'm from BOURQUE, Massachusetts.
My name is Abby Donegan. I'm a medical biology major and a psychology minor, and I'm from Fremont, New Hampshire.
My name is Samuel Casey. I'm from Cape Elizabeth, Maine. I'm a senior political science major at UNE.
Thank you. All right, we're going to begin with our opening statements. Each of you will have 3 minutes. Mr. Swanton, please begin.
I haven't spoken for 3 minutes for my entire term, I don't believe. Let's see, why am I running again? This is tough. I really hate, A, being on camera, and B, trying to improvise speeches. Why am I running? To help Biddeford. Taxes seem to go out of sight. Nothing seems to be getting done. I thought it would be easy to get elected and just chop the budget by 25% and everybody would be happy. It was a steep learning curve. I've learned a lot in the past 2 years, and I want to redeem myself by running for another term and see if I can help.
Okay. All right.
Told you I'd be horrible.
No.
Speaker.
Name is Ron Peaker. I've been in and out of politics in this city for the 20 years that we've lived here. And I elected to get back into it this year to be an advocate for spending control. The city budget is out of control. The mill rate went up $2.11. Our housing is a disaster with the people. Many houses are for sale by people who can't afford the taxes, and also there are people who can't afford to come into this town and buy those houses. And so what I would like to see doing is getting a look at every expenditure that this city makes and attempting to make the cuts in those expenditures so that not only the mill rate comes down, but also the spending comes down into something that is reasonable. Thank you.
All right.
Again, John McCURRY, Ward 2. Decided to throw my name back into the hat. After numerous times going to the council over the past 2 years, trying to get them to reduce the spending with no avail. Everyone remembers a couple years ago, the voters voted on the school budget. A couple times got voted down. The council decided to throw $500,000 back into the budget anyway, that the voters still voted down for, and the school couldn't use it because It wasn't what was voted on. But the funds were able to be used in this year's school budget to offset their increase. So granted, their increase for the school budget wasn't increased dramatically this year because of that, but it's $500,000 the taxpayers didn't have to do. Same thing with the tax rate with the school district this year. They put $30,000 in for superintendent who may have to move or hire a new one, and now there's talk of hiring a new position that isn't within the budget. That's all stuff that shouldn't be put into a budget that is not needed or isn't approved in the beginning. This year's budget, we see $200,000 more taken out of the sewer user fee that wasn't transferred in. So that offset the entire city budget for the entire city, but it penalized anyone who's on the sewer. And granted, 50% of the city's on sewer, 50% of the city's on their own septic system. We have to control the spending, and there's, as I said many times when I was on the council and couldn't get the 5 votes to cut it, there's ways to reduce the budget. You just need to have the 5 votes to do that. Thank you.
Hi, David Bourque, Ward 2. I'm not going to elaborate on taxation because we have one of the questions on taxation. I just want to say that, you know, in the last 4 years, you know, we've accomplished a lot in the city. The city's changing. Main energy's gone. There's a lot of things that are coming. We have like 6 or 7 projects in the funnel right now that are great projects for downtown. You know, the parking garage is on the way, whether it be, you know, in the mill or wherever we decide to locate it, that's yet to be determined. But, you know, I just would run for 2 more years to try to get some more work done, make some decisions to move us in the right direction. Bedford has a bright future. I feel that. I love the city, and I'll be here the rest of my life. Thank you.
All right. We'll begin with our questioning. Mike, would you ask Mr. Peeker the first question?
Yes, it's on taxation. State support for Maine's communities has gone down, and the mill rate has increased as a result. What should Biddeford do to stabilize the tax rate? Should it cut services, expand the tax base, or both? What should the city cut, and how can it expand the tax base?
Okay, general overall question on taxation. First place, the assumption that all of the mill rate increase was as a result of the Maine communities getting less money from the state is not correct. Yes, there is less money coming down from Augusta. However, the cuts that are necessary or the changes that are necessary, a lot of them are in the local budget and the realm of the city council. For example, just recently, within the last 4 weeks, they had a request for a vehicle for the animal control officer. What the council and the mayor did was to turn around and get the animal control officer a new vehicle, and they budgeted for the next budget, which hasn't even come up yet. The number of vehicles that we have running around town are too many. We don't look at the picture of those services that we absolutely need and not the ones that are nice to have. And many times, we have a total of $60 million budget in this town. From the last time that I was in office, the budget was $40 million. It's gone up. In less than 10 years, it has gone from $40 to $60 million. In a $60 million budget, there must be some areas that can be reduced, cut, or found different ways to do things within the existing guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move to Mr. McCurry. The same question is
Same
going
question.
to apply.
I think you have to stabilize the tax rate, it's got to be both. You need to get businesses to come in. It can't just be growth within homes or apartments or whatever of that nature, you need to have a cross-section between businesses coming in that aren't going to tax the services. But you also have to look at, within the budget, of controlling the spending that you do have control over, which is, you know, I've said it many years ago, the vehicles that get taken home by the employees, you know, stop that, make them come in and get the vehicle at the shop. A lot of the city contracts, there's stuff in the city contracts, which I brought up before, you know, with, as far as there's tools, there's all sorts of stuff in the budget that's got to be looked at. And we've got raises that we give out, and then we give longevity raises out. Sometimes we get employees that can get, you know, 8–9% raises in 1 year. And the way the economy is today, you can't afford to do that. You need to take a serious look at everything, whether it's cutting some city services or finiting them. We took back over the treatment plant, which was supposed to save $1 million. I'm on the sewer, and I haven't seen 1 penny saved for myself yet. So, and I just consider that another tax. You know, even though I can't claim it on my taxes, it's another tax. I'd rather see it all rolled into the city and have it controlled that way, and then we'll share the wealth of it all.
Thank you. We're going to move to Mr. Bourque.
Thank you. Taxation, it's a tough one. Quite frankly, it's probably the worst job of being a counselor is budget. It's really tough. Being on this side of the fence, being on the council, you do grow a lot of respect for the department heads. These are great guys, okay? How they're managed is another story. I have mixed feelings on that, but taxation, they need things. And one thing that disturbs me about a lot of, I hear these comments all the time, we should cut. Let's just say, for example, taxes are flat, 0 increase. A 0 increase is a cut in services because cost of doing business goes up. You know, we wrestle with this all the time. You have contracts, union contracts and all these things. These are fixed increases. You can't stop the cost of fuel. You can't stop the cost of tar. You can't stop all these increases. Insurance is a killer, okay? So, I mean, I feel that the only way to fix tax in this city, to keep them from going up, is to create revenues that at least absorb the increase. Start with that, okay? You know, we're missing the boat on a lot of items like the water company. The city should run after the water company. There's enormous revenue there. And now they're talking about $92 million worth of infrastructure repairs. Who's going to pay for that? The city would not project a number like that. It wouldn't cost us $92 million to do it ourselves. We do it with local people, create jobs. This is good revenue, okay? I mean, that's my opinion, quite frankly. The whole tax situation is because the city does not engage in keeping the money in the city. Portland does it. You have a project in the city, the money should stay in the city for as much local people as you can. Put that money back in benefit pockets and create revenues that offset the increase. It's the only thing that makes sense to me because taxes are continuously going to grow. Cost of business, look at our lives. Cost of doing business, cost of doing life goes up every day. We can't stop it. So you can curb it. You can save some money. These guys are right. You know, you can go digging for pennies. I remember one night we worked all night and we saved a penny. You remember that, Ron? Okay, and we kind of laughed about it because it's an enormous number and every penny does count, I agree, but you know, we really need to engage in creating revenue. I've been crying about it for 4 years. We just don't. We're supporting other communities with our money and we're not keeping it in our own backyard, and that's just bad. We could change the whole city budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move to Mr. Swanton on the same topic.
Thank you. It's tough. The federal government is allowed to print money so they can balance their budget. The state can stop revenue sharing, which cuts the money that we would get, and what we end up doing is putting it on the property taxpayer. And so the buck stops with all of us. One of the problems is most of us feel we can't do anything about the federal deficit, and there's nothing we can do about state spending, but we certainly know where our councilmen live, so we get the brunt of it. As David said, one night we combed through the budget and found $300 here and $500 there, and that didn't amount to anything, and what we need to do is look at, the entire school budget. As an example, we had 3,000 kids in school 10 years ago. We have 2,500 in school today. We have 6 schools. Logic would dictate time to close a school. But
Consolidate.
the past council that I was on voted, they didn't want to lay anybody off. I mean, times are tough and they hated to see anybody laid off. I'm afraid this is the last year that that's going to happen. The various departments are going to be scrutinized by the next council and see, who got to go, actually. Sorry. How can we expand the tax base? There is nothing that I can do as a counselor to expand business in the city. That's a huge economic problem that we're having in the country, and attracting somebody to Maine is going to take more than what the city council can do. It's more of a federal problem and a state problem as far as corporate taxes, energy prices, health insurance, and all that. It's just so far out of our control. There's nothing we can do about that. And expand the tax basis in Biddeford, I don't see how. I'm sorry, but that's it.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the...
Each one gets...
Oh, I apologize. Sorry about that. Any further additions, if you'd like to have any other comments? Mr. Peaker.
Yeah, we always get into the problem with this cutting services and whatnot. My look at this election is giving the voters a chance to look at different people that can come to the table with different look at it. All those things that are on the screen in front of me there are always the known way of doing things. You got to cut taxes. You got to get more revenue in here. Nobody ever thinks of doing this business differently. Getting people involved to give their time and effort instead of always having to hire somebody. Duplicating efforts. I mean, we've got some people around that no longer have a job, that Merck is out, and we've got them sitting in an office over at the water thing. Maybe that particular person can do something differently, and we can combine those things. It's about looking at the situation differently and coming up with some different answers instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to lap off all these services.
Thank you. Anyone? Yep. We're going to move to you, Mr. McCurry.
It was brought up, about keeping the dollars within the city. It's in the ordinances now. We're supposed to do everything within the city first before it goes out to anywhere else. It's supposed to be offered up to the city first as long as they're competitive with it. And that's the way the ordinances are written for that piece of it. I'll expand a little bit more. The recycling center, we put the recycling in curbside recycling now and the trash. But we still have the recycling center open up the same amount of hours. I believe it's with the same amount of people, the same amount of funding. Something's got to change if you're changing up everything else also. So you've got to look at every aspect of it. Bringing businesses in, Nissen has closed the bakery up, and when is that going to be back in? That's a big taxpayer. I don't know if they paid the taxes. I'm sure they had to pay the taxes when they first sold, but I don't know if they're going to pay them again until it's reopened. There'd be no reason to. Thank you.
Mr. Bourque.
Thank you. In response to the local buying ordinance, there is no local buying ordinance. When I was on policy, we tried to create a policy that would like a preference to local buying. I mean, we should be giving an incentive for the local person to engage in their community. I mean, And a lot of the guys that I talk to, some of the contractors locally, I won't name them, but they, you know, they're frustrated. It always goes out to the outside, to the big concern or the outside person. It doesn't, jobs that they could perform in our city, they don't get the option to do that by, you know, some way, some rules, some laws, it's, you know, it's low bidder state dollar thing or something. There's always a reason why. But nevertheless, it doesn't happen. We don't get those local people, and I think it's wrong. I think we need to engage in local buying. And, you know, if we don't keep the money at home, then it's not simple. Then we need to do that. I mean, there needs to be a good ordinance put in there, and good luck getting it. It's not so easy.
One in there.
There's a lot of opposition to
Taking
it.
it out, there's one in there.
There's a lot of opposition to it. Thank you.
In response to John McCurry's, you're right, the recycling center is still open the same number of hours as it was last year, even though we have curbside recycling. Guy Cassavan asked for and got virtually a reprieve for this year. He wanted to collect data to see if things did change out back and make a decision this winter after he had 6 months worth of data to see how much can we close it on Sunday? I know we can close it Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I believe there will be changes back there.
I'd rather see it closed during the week and the weekend be open. That's when a lot of people
It's a
need
ghost
it,
town
the
on
weekend.
Sunday, but anyway, go ahead.
Thank you.
All right, this next question is regarding infrastructure. What are the major infrastructural problems in Biddeford, and what should the city do to correct the problems in the infrastructure? We're going to start with Mr. McCurry.
The infrastructure? Where you want? Well, we've got our roads, which has always been a major issue, and I don't think we're funding them currently. I don't think the city should be in the real estate business because we can't maintain them. So I think we need to sell whatever property we do not need. For example, I'll be shot for this one, but this building here, we bought. I think we could have found someplace else to put it instead of buying another building. And when we bought this building, we didn't do due diligence, and we ended up having to hook up to the sewer line. This is a piece that has free reign of dollars. I've tried to get it to go to the city side because it's funded by our user fee, our franchise fee. So it's, you look at your bill, it's probably $5 or $6 a month that you're paying for this. So there's a lot of infrastructure needs, but I think we need to sell some of the property. We shouldn't own real estate. We can't maintain City Hall, so we sure can't. Oops. Can't maintain all these other buildings.
That's not bad.
Edit that.
That's not bad, John.
All right.
I thought this property was purchased through the Time Warner Fund, but I could be
The
wrong.
dedicated fund.
I think that the infrastructure in the city is in a disarray. It's in bad shape. We saw all the footage on the cameras that are underground for all the storage, and they're coming up with some good solutions. We got Tom Milligan, the city engineer, he's a pretty smart guy, came up with a solution to put tubes, and they poured a compound in there that shores those pipes up. Saved us quite a few, I bet you millions. I mean, I'm not sure the exact number, but a lot of money. Pretty interesting process. And they put them in, and they blow them up, and they save those pipes rather than digging up the streets and major, construction. We're doing a great job with the CSO separation in all the roads that separates the water and the sewers, the groundwater from the storage. There's a lot of things on the move. I mean, and we have millions. We're getting grants. The city should have a grant writer. We're losing millions of dollars on that. So much money we're losing on not having a grant writer, because there is money out there that we could obtain to help. Instead of putting it on the taxpayer, there's one way to save some money. But infrastructure, there's a big need. Roads are not funded properly, absolutely. But again, I mean, if you're not trying to create, I mean, we could sell everything that we have, and that's a one-time thing. Spend the money, it's gone. It's going to go into something in the city. But if we could create revenue, if we could engage in creating revenue for the city, like building out the mills is creating some revenue. There's what, 120-something apartments are talking about putting in the mill, right in the mill district, right around West Point Stevens building. That's going to people downtown. It's going to help create some business downtown. It's going to support businesses existing. And we need to change our attitude about business in the city. We need to become more business friendly. We're not. You know, the police department's intimidating. The codes is intimidating. And even some of the people that promote the downtown business, you know, they're focused on what they want exactly. They're not diverse enough. They need to look at everybody, greet everyone equally, and take them the way they come. That's who people are, you know. And let business come to the city. I mean, when we're not doing, there's a lot of things we're not doing correctly, but we could, and we have a great opportunity right now. Biddeford's really on the move. Biddeford is, you know, coming into its own. So we need to engage in those type of activities. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Swanton.
Hi. One of the major infrastructure problems is we haven't paved a road in at least 2 years. It's its own little line item in the budget, and as we ratchet up the property taxes, it's easy to cut that line. And unfortunately, I think it's been 0 2 years in a row, where it should be $1 million or 24 cents on the mill rate. We can't go on forever. Mile Stretch Road is one example. There's too many examples of the roads in Biddeford. The sewer lines, I thought they were taking care of themselves by a revolving fund. They've got, I forget how many millions in it right now. The clock tower, the bell tower on City Hall, it's going to cost $2 million to replace that. Secaucus Hall at UNE is a huge dormitory. It costs $3 million to build that one building. It houses 300 students. Biddeford wants to spend $2 million replacing a clock tower on top of because it's our image, which I don't quite understand. We have a huge priority problem is what we have. How do I explain that in 3 minutes? We need to rearrange priorities to take care of what we've got and get rid of what we don't use. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Peaker.
I'm looking at that question, and I'm probably give you a short answer because in my experience with it, Biddeford has always been behind the curve, whether it be the treatment plant, whether it be roads, etc. So you get to the first problem is that if we had a comprehensive plan and were made to follow it, we would eventually get out of this situation. But what happens to us is that we do dumb things. For example, we wanted politically to be able to float a bond issue, so we added Fortune's Rocks Road down in our territory. We spent $1 million on that. The road is nice. The road has just been redone. However, we're paying it off in 25 years, which most of us sitting here will never see. Now, what I'm saying to you is that we have never, the COB project, the separation of what, we postponed that as long as we could until the state threatened us. Now, we do those type of things when it's unnecessary. If this were a business, you would have an R&D plan, you'd have an infrastructure plan, you'd have a plant building redoing plan, and all of these plans would be moving along, and when times got a little tough, you'd be not doing something else and doing this. Now we're so far behind the curve that it's almost a disaster to correct it, and so expensive that it probably, you know, I really don't know how we get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
You can go first.
Okay, thank you. I hear what you're saying, Ronnie, and you're right. It's to the point of disaster. When you look at everything, the entire city, it's overwhelming, all right? Being, like I say, driving down the street, going to Dunkin' Donuts is one thing, but when you get into the city and you're sitting down with the stuff going, holy smokes, I mean, where do you find, you know, the 100 million or whatever it's going to take to correct some of these errors? So, you're right, it is to that point, but, you know, all you can do is, you know, take one thing at a time, most important thing first, and work forward, but it's going to take revenue, it's going to take money, and where we're going to find that, we need to create some revenue. I've been saying it for 4 years, it seems to fall on deaf ears. We need to create some revenue, perpetual revenue, whether it be broadening the tax base or, you know, forming a water district and taking that money and putting it into our infrastructure that we're not paying dividends, you know what I mean? Or expand the sewer plant, or do something, make an investment that creates perpetual income. That would help us a lot. Thanks.
Mr. McCurry?
The treatment plant already has, unless we've given it all away, excess capacity. That's the big thing I was trying to worry about with the expansions. You got to make sure you have enough for business to come in with just the residential.
Right.
And the CSO work, we've been doing that for quite a while. That's why the treatment plant got built, was because we had a federal mandate many years ago on that. And we've been steadily doing the CSO work, and then when we got finished, we had to come up with another plan to keep going. I sat on wastewater for 8 years, so I was with a lot of that we went, and that's how we ended up transferring some of that over to the city side, because if it's an infrastructure item, it should be spread to the whole city. It shouldn't be spent on just the user fees, which it was in the beginning. It was just the users that paid for all the infrastructure for the entire city, which we had a lot of people on both sides of the fence. That's when, on Donna Dion's administration, formed a committee to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, we do have a plan for paving the streets. It's a 20-year plan. We pave 1/20th of all the streets in Biddeford every year, and so if you spend $1 million a year, you can perpetually, you'll always have perfectly paved streets. As I said earlier, unfortunately, it's its own line in the budget, and when times get tough, as they have in the past couple of years, it got bumped. But there is a plan, just no mandate.
That's right.
Thank you.
The next question,
Mr. Baker gets a response.
Didn't I? Oh,
No, you started.
did I
Where
start?
did John start?
No,
John started.
Who's
He's
on
first.
first?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, because he's up next.
Hey, you were on first, weren't you?
Yeah, I was up first.
Who's on second?
Hey, I'll pass. All right, move on.
The next question will be about the parking garage. It will be first to Mr. BOURQUE. The argument has been made the parking garage will enhance the development of downtown businesses, and others argue that it's a waste of public funds that will only benefit a few private owners. Do you believe the parking garage is necessary? Do you support or oppose the building of a parking garage downtown?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Well, first of all, I believe if we're going to move forward and we're going to build out that 1.2 million square feet of mill space, we should have a parking garage, an infrastructure parking. Do I think the location's perfect where they want to put it, where it's been, you know, shown to us in plans or whatever like that? I think it is a perfect spot. Do I think that it's going to create revenue for the city? Of course it will, okay? But the point of it is that there is no deal really right now. So the parking garage, as far as I'm concerned, is a bit moot, because we don't have a deal. We don't have a location nailed down. We don't have anything in stone on this whole garage deal. And I keep hearing about it, you know, the $20,000 a parking space, all these projected numbers, they're all high numbers. There's no real anything to discuss. I did bring forward for the city to have a referendum on it when the time comes, and I think it's a good idea. But first you have to get the numbers down, you have to have the deal put together so it's legible, and then you have to educate the voters. I mean, otherwise, I mean, if we came out with a vote right now, the answer would be no, and that could put us 10 years behind. if we have the opportunity to have some major growth in the next decade. So, I don't know. I think the parking garage is a good idea. I had other ideas than the mill myself, but, and maybe that's where it'll go. None of that's really determined yet. Again, we don't have anything in stone. I think that, another quick thing, while I have a minute 18 left, I think if we're going to move forward with a parking garage, wherever we do it, if it is on land that's donated for the city to invest in, we need to make sure that all phases of the project are in our hand, that's in stone, before we begin. We have to have all those guarantees in place, because we don't want to build a gate to a great facility and then wind up with 2/3 of that project controlled by somebody else. Either it's all or nothing, and that's the way it should be, and we need to have those things in place. I'm out of time. Thanks.
Mr. Swanton?
Thank you. At this point, building the garage would be premature, I believe. There was the attitude to build it and they will come. That was from a movie, and it was called Field of Dreams. I don't think it's necessary at this point. Let's get torn down, cleaned up, swept up, and sold, and see what the demand is. I'm not great at predicting the future. It's nice that we had Winton Scott Architects draw this plan all out. It can be implemented in 4 phases. It's a wonderful concept. It's shovel-ready. Do we need it today? No, we don't need it today. We need people to move into Biddeford first. It's a great long-term plan. When it is built, the economic development director figured out how to pay for this thing without putting it on the residential property tax payers. It's a brilliant plan. I hope it works. But as of today, there is no plan. There was a place they were going to put it, and that deal fell apart. So that's still in negotiations right now.
Thank you. Mr. Peaker?
Parking garage. It seems that the people in Biddeford have gotten very upset over it. Let me start with what I believe. In the mill area, which is owned privately, if a parking garage is to go in, let the owners of that property put up a parking garage. There is no reason for involvement by other than code and whatnot of that item, any more than it would be if Marriott came in and put up a big hotel and they put a parking garage next to it. The second thing that bothers people and also bothers me is that no money will be taken from the people as far as the mill rate, et cetera. You got something that's going to go on for 25 years. How do you know, maintenance-wise, how do you know that there will never be that? And the other thing to the people that are upset about this is it's going to be funded, as stated now, by parking meters in the downtown area. We haven't had parking meters in this city since 1970. Most people don't like them. Even in Portland where they have them, they don't like them. And it will be a driver of business out of the downtown area. Where people now have free, they're going to have, it's going to cost them money to park. They're not going to want to put money in a meter to run into BB's Burritos or any of the other places downtown. They've already said that. I'll go to Hannaford, I'll go to Market Basket, I'll go to Shaw's, where they have nice free parking in the lots. And we will not put it into our municipal parking areas like behind City Hall, which facilitates and will facilitate free to all of our employees. while all the people that pay taxes will pay for parking meters. It's not a viable program where it is now and in the mill area, and it should be dropped at least for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. Mr. McCurry, your opinion.
I do not believe it's needed at this time. Those of us who've been around knows those mills, when they were operational, had thousands of people working in there, and there was a lot of cars, because I can remember having the police officer direct the traffic coming out of the mill onto Main Street. So there's a lot of parking over there, and they said in the paper that they could handle their own parking. I'm a believer, if you open a business, you have to have parking. The downtown, I've heard the same thing with the meters. Nobody wants the meters in downtown. I tried to get them to make the city employees park in one of the city parking lots around the corner, and I nearly got killed for that one. City staff does not want to have to walk. So in order for this garage to work, you've got to force the people off of Main Street into the parking garage. It's the only way it will pay. And as far as the funding is concerned, I think it's trying to use the TIF dollars to pay, which is about $837,000 the city gets in TIF dollars, out of which $587,000 can be used for this. It's still taxpayers' money. No matter how you look at it, the TIF money is taxpayers' money. Granted, you're taking some money out that you're offsetting against the school subsidy. I think it's time we take a look to see if how much we're really saving in school subsidy if we're not putting that $582,000 back into the coffers' pockets. You know, we always say that we have to tip these dollars so that we can shelter the funds so we can get the most maximization out of our dollars from the state. Well, how much are we really going to lose? I mean, that's got to be the big question that gets asked now. I know out of all the TIF dollars, 200 plus go back, but I do not support a parking garage at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bork.
Thank you. A couple of comments. First of all, a few comments that happened with this board right here. Build a parking garage after the people come here. See who comes here and build a garage? That doesn't work. It's a catch-22. Okay? If you don't have the facility or some phase of it or some part of it or begin that phase or commit to that phase, they're not going to come. Okay? Second of all, parking space on downtown Main Street, there's nothing free about it. Okay? The taxpayers, Mr. Peaker and Mr. Curry and Mrs. Swanton pays taxes to pay for those parking spaces. How often do you park downtown? Quite often?
Every time I'm there.
Every time you're there, okay? But I'm saying that most people that don't, like from Ward 1 or something, if they don't come downtown, they're paying for those. Why shouldn't the people that use them pay for them? That's what's good about parking meters, okay? I know we had parking meters back in 1970, but again, you know, we'd close the door on revenue. Letting a private industry that run it means it's not available to us. We make no revenue. That's the problem. So we need to engage in that. We need more revenue. We can't just keep throwing it away.
Come back around.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, John McCurry brings up an interesting point about how school funding is trending towards zero. And try to explain the TIF in under 3 minutes is impossible to do. But we keep TIFing all these things because it helps with the school, shelter it from the school funding, but the school funding is coming to zero, so why are we TIFing this in the first place? And you meet with Daniel Stevenson and he gives an overly caffeinated performance one more time and you go, oh, okay, now I understand. And it's a very complicated issue, and yes, I can see how one of these days a TIF won't make any sense at all. Thank you.
Remember that the parking garage we're talking about right now is a parking garage in the mill area. It has not been, at this particular time, proposed anywhere else. Now, it is very possible that people would look at it differently if it were proposed as at some point in time, not now, in a municipal area owned by the city, supported somehow by funds for the city, et cetera, et cetera. The trouble is that what has originated from the council is strictly one in a private area where the people do not feel that any type of handling by the city should be provided for it.
I'll just make one simple comment on your parking meters scenario. If that's what you're saying, that we should have that so that we can bring in revenue, then what you should say then, if the parking meters is going to go in downtown, they need to go everywhere. So every parking spot within a city, no matter what side street it is, on your road, every road would need a parking spot. It's the
Doesn't
same
make sense.
scenario. Right, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to put it in a residential area that's not a business area.
Right.
You put it in a B1 zone because people frequent business.
If you
That's why you have
put it in downtown,
Mhm.
what do you think it's going to do to the side streets right there? They're going to go to the side streets.
Be on the main drags.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same scenario. It's people are using that service, but they're not paying for it. I'm just saying what you said. They didn't pay for that service.
Mike, our next question, please.
Thank you. We're going to start with you, Mr. Swanton. This question is based off of workforce housing. It has been indicated that there is a growing need for workforce housing in Biddeford. Do you support the development of this workforce housing in Biddeford in general, and specifically in the downtown Biddeford area?
This was 3 months ago, and yes, I did support both of them. One of them was Doug Sanford's project, the other one was Nathan Zant's. And at the last minute, I voted I voted against Sanford's, and at the last minute, I decided to vote in favor of Nathan Zant's. And out of the 2 decisions that I've made on this while sitting on the council that I regret making the most, that was one of them. You're given a stack of 17 pages of documents to leaf through and fire questions at the panel in an executive session, and at the end of the executive session, they gather up the papers and say, "Thank you very much," and they go home. I can't pour over the data on these papers and then sitting there 10:30 at night, make a decision, a financial decision that involves $16 million in the growth of the city of Biddeford, and I made the wrong decision. I don't think today I would vote in favor of Nathan Zant's project because it's a $16 million revamping of this building, Secaucus Hall. It's the same size building. $3 million to build Secaucus Hall, $16 million to revamp this old mill building. The state funds, the state money is, it's a revolving fund from the state, I believe, that is going to end up paying to finance this thing. And at the end, it just didn't make financial sense. It did at 10:30 at night, though. So do we need workforce housing? Yes, we do. But some buildings just need to be torn down because they're too old. Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to move to Mr. Peaker.
Low-income housing.
Workforce.
They changed it. That's not the right question anymore.
Oh, that's not the right question?
Supposed to say workforce.
Workforce housing.
It's supposed to say workforce housing?
Yes.
Okay. Generally, I am now opposed to that area. And very frankly, because I think we have enough housing of this area in Biddeford. That's not to say that I'm opposed to helping people get a home and et cetera. But one has to understand that any of these reductions from a regular housing market costs the other people in Biddeford. It costs them in terms of assessments. It costs them in terms of the type of people that come into the area, meaning type, large amounts of single mothers, et cetera. I don't really mean types because I don't type people, but those that have a problem with income to begin with. I'm all for helping them, but I think we've got enough of that particular category in Biddeford. And remember that everything that flows around there has to be absorbed by the community. So it's not just the fact that you're giving out low-cost housing. Now, this new words on here means that we're going to provide housing for people who are going to be our maintenance people, et cetera, in the community. And that doesn't make any sense to me. And I just don't agree with this particular concept in Biddeford.
Thank you. Mr. McCurry?
Well, I wasn't privy to the executive session and all the
wasn't either.
paperwork and the new terminology for workforce housing, but between workforce housing, low-income housing, I think what you need to take a look at is to see how many vacant properties and apartments we have within the city already. Because if you're going to create another faucet for people to move to, then it's just going to take away from the rental incomes that they have now. So you're not going to be able to rent the property you have based on that. If you create too much infrastructure that has all apartments and housing and no business, you're going to tax your infrastructure of the sewer treatment plant. So you need to have an offset for both. You can't just, and without having the data, which I tried to gather before this meeting, but City Hall's closed and nobody could get it on Friday, everybody was gone, to see how much we had for low-income housing currently on the books. That's a hard question to answer, but I wouldn't support anything without definitely knowing what the ramification is for the infrastructure and what we currently have that might hurt the people that own multifamilies now within the city. I mean, you could take the bread right out of them, and now you have neighborhoods that are going to falter because they don't have the income to maintain the building. So you could actually hurt your inner city if you put too much housing of that type somewhere else.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Mr. Bourque.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm with you, John, on that. I think that creating too much housing will hurt some of the downtown business. And another way to look at it too is that if you believe in business and you believe that competition is good, I think that when you start competing with some of the newer apartments, people are going to have to upscale their apartments. It's an incentive to do that if they want to keep them rented. Not everybody wants to live in a big brick box either. I mean, so some people like 2 or 3 families that like a little bit more, it's a little more private. So I think there's uses for all the housing in town. But there is a lot of older housing, and they're the buildings you see around, the ones with the plywood windows I keep talking about. We could either, and there's another remedy for parking. I don't want to get off this subject, but if some of those things were cleared and tarred, I mean, it's not going to cost $20,000 for a parking space, and they're parking shops. I mean, whatever. But housing, I think, is important. I think that we do need to have some development. We need to start growing if we're going to help support Main Street. And that is a good area to do just that. It is a good area right there. So, it's right downtown. But I mean, you're right. And I've talked about before about putting a moratorium on subsidized housing. We have enough, but the one problem that we do have in this city, we're a hub community, and we're supposed to receive them, okay? It seems like a burden. We're not prepared for that. We don't have those big white elephant buildings for emergency and where to bed them, and what do you do with them? Gymnasiums will be full. I mean, if there's a real disaster, we're supposed to take people from everywhere. So we just don't have the budget for that, But I think new housing would be good. A lot of it's pretty old, and a lot of it's needs to be upgraded. And there's some bad housing in Biddeford too that could be gone, less safe. Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to move back to Mr. Swanton if you have any additional comments.
Yeah, the workforce housing that is being developed in the Mill District is all part of a master plan. They dedicated so much for housing, so much for business, so many square footage for housing, so many square footage for business. So there is a master plan out there. It was accepted in, what, 2009 or something like that?
Right. And revisited, yeah.
And so, yeah, it's all in the master plan.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Peaker?
Yes.
Mr. McCurry?
But I thought the original master plan had all condominiums. High-end condos were going to go in there originally, I believe. So we've moved away from the high-end condos because of the
10,000.
economy we're moving into workforce housing. So if I remember right, when I was on the council, that was the big hype back then. It was
Right.
going to be high-end condos
Condos,
overlooking the river.
Yeah.
You know. So those of us who were around remember that.
But we have the river, so
Yeah,
that's.
we have the river.
The river's there, and the river walk.
Any
And the
further
walk.
comments?
All set.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're gonna move on to the next question.
All right, this next question regards the casino. Recently, a state panel on a vote of 10 to 8 recommended the expansion of gambling in Maine. Those in support of it believe it will expand jobs and increase funding for the city. Those opposed say that it takes advantage of low income and the only people making a profit off of it will be the casino owners. Do you support revisiting the idea of having a casino in Biddeford? And we're going to start with Mr. Peaker.
Well, from my standpoint, it's a really simple type answer. The people of Biddeford voted to have a racino in the city. If it wasn't for the current mayor, we might have one. Because he decided to dump it. The problem was that it was going to put some money into the coffers, as Mr. Bourque likes to have, to take care of the school that we just spent $34 million on, the high school. So it got dumped in that regard. I am still for it. I think that, along with some other projects that are with it, including a Class A hotel, all on the other side of the turnpike with its separate access, I think it still remains a viable option for this city, and particularly to bring in funds. I am less concerned. I do not think it necessarily hurts low-income people. And obviously, if it's a private type operation, it's going to be a profit maker. But at least somebody else other than the city of Biddeford is going to take the risk. And I'm all for that.
Great, thank you. Mr. McCurry.
Oh, I wholeheartedly support it. The citizens of this city supported it overwhelmingly. And I believe that we could have had this already located in town, already construction done, if it didn't die at the State House and put it out to a state referendum. Like Mr. Peaker said, if the mayor would have, he wasn't the mayor then, but if he would have supported it up there, I think we would have had that already in town. It would have definitely would have helped the budget season this year. Would have helped the budget for the last few years. So if you take a look at it, I don't see any downfall to it at all.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Bourque.
I'm certainly for it. I fought hard to get the signs out, and I was the idiot with a necktie at 3 o'clock in the morning in the rain, putting up signs. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I think we needed some vehicle to in the city to bring us some revenue. Also, Biddeford, and I've ranted about this before, that Biddeford could be a vacation destination. We have the coastline, we have the college, we have all these things that the city is primed for this. We have the infrastructure. Why not, bring in, like you say, a nice motel or a couple, maybe a convention center or something, or bring in some facility to Biddeford. We're right on the spur, and with the casino, it would support the mall. It would make that more active. And you can incorporate that, depends on negotiations. You can incorporate that with the downtown. But 61% of the voters voted for that. And it was a majority in York County. So if it comes back, it could be a countywide vote. I think it would pass for York County. It was Washington County and up north that really kind of, actually Washington County got it because, right.
The Oxford.
Right,
Oxford.
Oxford. Well, not Oxford, but they were going to put one in Calais, up in the
Right.
Calais area, Washington County. And that was the Passamaquoddy tribe. And, so incorporating those two together made 2. And then when you had Lewiston wanting to put one downtown, and you had, Oxford coming
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I mean, it was too much at once, and I think it hurt us statewide, that's what happened, but it would have been, and they were guaranteeing at least $5 million, it would have been in excess of $5 million a year. Would fix a lot of ills. There's your road budget, Mike, right there,
A lot
okay,
of
no
budget.
doubt about it. But yeah, so I'm certainly for it. I think it's a good, anything to help us right now would be great, and we can work with it and expand the city and have a little more, become vacation destination. I love that idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Swanton?
I'm against casinos. Somewhere along the line in human history, gambling was considered a vice and was outlawed, along with all the other ills of society. And it's been creeping back into society. I guess we've just forgotten how awful it is to society. I was in Vegas many, many years ago, and a disgruntled former employee of one of the casinos said, you know what we call gamblers? Losers. Why would you want more losers coming to, I'm sorry, that makes it sound like there are losers in Biddeford. Why would you want to attract losers to Biddeford? If every time somebody loses, somebody wins. The casino owners will win. The house always wins. You're always going to lose whenever you gamble. I can't quite understand why people would want to go to a casino. I know people who have houses in Biddeford who also live in near Foxwoods or the other ones in Connecticut and say, Mike, you don't want one of those in your town. It's just not worth what it ends up costing you at the end of the day. So I'm vehemently opposed to casinos.
Thank you. Mr. Peaker, do you have any additional comments?
Well, only to the point that was just made here. The reason why we're discussing it is there are pluses and there are minuses. At this particular stage, the pluses for Biddeford totally outweigh the minuses.
Exactly.
And that's why you go in that direction. And it's like, you know, I think of the days 30 or 40 years ago when I thought smoking was great. It ain't great. And this, you know, the trouble with what we lost is we lost the impetus of having this here. It's going to be in New Hampshire, it's going to be in Massachusetts, it's going to be all over the country.
It's coming anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be here anyway. So, and we lost being first, and that was a big loss.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. And what else, besides the tax dollars, you're bringing jobs into the community. So then you're also going to have people spending other dollars within the community that are working. I mean, the unemployment rate around here is quite high. We need to have some sort of businesses that are going to hire some people. We need some jobs.
Mr. Bork?
In the words of Texas Hold'em, I'm all in for gambling. Right? I'm all in.
All right, Mr.
No,
Swan.
I've said it. Thanks.
Okay.
Sam?
We'll continue on. The next question deals with the airport. So I lost my place.
John McCurry.
McCurry, all right, certainly.
McCurry.
Do you believe the airport should be closed, remain as it is, or expanded? If you choose to close, then what should be done with that space? If you choose to expand it, how should it be expanded?
That's me.
Yes.
That went before a referendum also, and it was voted to stay open and maintain it as it is. And I wholeheartedly support that. That's what the citizens of the city said we should do with it, and it needs to do that. We need to maintain it safe. I wish we would have finished or cleaned up what we had on the council so far to get it to back up to the safety standards that it needs to be at. So no, I'm not for closing it at all. Could be an economic tool to fly them into the casino.
That's absolutely right.
All set?
I'm all set.
Mr. Bork?
Okay, thanks. The airport, well, that's another one that never goes away. That's like a nagging relative who was deceased. It keeps coming back. We keep voting it away to not expand it, not spend money at the airport, and we opt not to take the money from the FAA.
Yep.
And for good reasons, okay? Now, we read the newspaper, the way it was reported to the people, which scares people to death, okay, is this over $7 million we'd have to pay back to the FAA. Well, I can't say it in plainer English, it's just baloney, okay? It's total baloney, because there's only a few acres, about 8 acres, we figured 8 or 9 acres, that truly have any tag on them anymore. The rest of it is, and the snow equipment, 124,000, we can give it to any airport, and we're relieved from that debt. We could close the airport. If people were given the correct numbers and given the right scenario, an unbiased report, okay, of what the airport is about, there's hundreds of acres out there of prime industrial land. I mean, that's perpetual revenue. This is more revenue I'm talking about, okay? You know, these people are gonna, you know, the question is, well, we'll have to pay for the infrastructure to put that in. The betterments are paid by the investor, okay? I don't know about anybody else when they expand things like that. You pay for the frontage and all that, you pay for the betterments. You can bring in some jobs. How many jobs could you put on 100 acres of land? A lot of jobs, okay? And it's perpetual income. It's regular taxable income. So, I mean, that makes more sense to me than really, and I'm really not sure how many people it serves, and the airport people are going to listen to this, they're going to want to hang me in the field, but it serves 20 or 30 people. Who does it serve? It's not serving the whole city. An industrial park would better serve the entire community. So, to me, I would, in my opinion, I would not close it if the people didn't want it to. That's fine. Given the right facts, not scaring them to death about what it'll cost us to get rid of it, they might change their mind about it. But that should be first, and if people decide that we could do something different with it, then I think we should.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Swanton?
Thank you. I'm all in favor of keeping the airport. I wish we had more money to, we're slowly starving the airport is what we're doing. They asked for 30,000, we reduced it to 15, and I wish we could have kept it at 30. With slightly more money invested, I'm sure it could turn a profit if we could ever get over the hurdles of some DEP requirements that would allow them to expand the hangar space. They could rent more hangars, get more income from the hangars. As far as closing it and turning it into industrial park, that's not going to happen because industry isn't moving to Maine. And carving it into house lots isn't going to work either because there was only, 5 houses built in the city last year anyway. No one's building spec houses anymore. And you talk about revenue and jobs and grant writers and stuff. The FAA is ready to give us $5 million for improvements on the airport.
They'll own us forever. Give it to them. Take it. We'll never be able to do anything with that. We have no options after that.
And I wouldn't have it. I mean, if you tried to open an airport in the state of Maine, is that going to take 15 years and $1 billion? If you get rid of the airport, you will never ever get it back. And I'm not ready to. I don't see anything.
I fly to Poland.
That is in such that we need so much more than we need an airport. So, no, I'm not going to close it.
Thank you. Mr. Baker?
Airport. As Mr. McCurry stated, people have voted to keep it open. The question then becomes how. And we have kicked this football down the road, up the side, we have complained about the trees, we have complained about this, that, and the other thing. I really believe that, I think we need new management out there. I also think that we need a manager out there who probably has a job in City Hall today and takes this on as a second thing. I'm not for expansion of the airport I'm for keeping it. I am for taking a hard look at the east-west runway instead of where it is, and this goes back to the time that I was on the council, and others voted to put in the school where they did at the end of the runway. So we got a middle school at the end of the runway with an accident just waiting to happen someday. And that bothers me. That has always bothered me, and I didn't want that school there, along with the 950-seat auditorium that's got 3 people in it. But anyway, we ought to keep, when you have assets, and there are ways to fix them, you ought to go do it. Now, you can get federal money, and granted the feds are going to tell you what to do, but maybe you should take the money, and maybe you should do what the little bit that we might have to put in. But this is no different with the people that fly in and out of that airport, and particularly the business people are there. We got more and more business people coming in there, but we also have pleasure people. And we supply ballparks for kids to play. We supply this, that, and the other thing, an arena, this and that. Within reason, we ought to be keeping this airport open and doing what we can to see that it at least pays its way.
Mr. McCurry, any more comments on this?
Yeah. As far as the funding, it used to be 95 federal, 2.5% state, 2.5% city. And I wholeheartedly think we should take the money. I mean, we're not going to pay them back $7 million or $2.3 million. I've heard 2 different numbers floating around lately.
The number's outrageous.
Yeah, but either way, we're not going to do that. You're talking about businesses. All of our business parks got plenty of businesses. They're not coming to town. We need to draw something into town to fill up the business spaces we do currently have. And I mean, whether we take them out of Portland or something, we need to come up with a tax break that brings them into town. So I think we need to keep the airport going.
You
want the
all
casino over there?
You'll set. No, I don't want the casino. Well, maybe, that might make sense. But
Off the runway.
here we go. But what I was going to say was, we have, what was I going to say? I'm drawing a blank. We talked about the airport out there. Oh, what I wanted to say was, it's what Ron was talking about. I'm sorry, I'm blowing this big time. Reiterate what you were saying about landing strips by schools.
Yep.
There it is. One day, I'm out there with my daughter, and she was playing softball. She loves softball. We're out in that second field, out right near the end of the runway. And I'm standing there with the other parents and watching the kids. And a plane came down and buzzed the top of our heads, going over the top of that tree at the end of that thing. And I ducked down. It startled me because I had never been at that field. We played at different fields, but I'd never been at that field when a plane was actually landing over your head. And it startled me, and one of the other parents laughed and said, "Hey, you never been down this field before? This is the airport right there." I said, "You got to be kidding me." I mean, these things come right down on the school property, right at the edge of the school property. You're right, one near miss, a novice, a new flyer, anything could really do some serious damage. We've had it happen in the city already. So maybe moving that. I think down by that strip, maybe down.
East-west. Yeah, this way instead of this way.
Yeah. And we could also bring
Good
in
luck with
something
that,
like,
gentlemen.
we could bring in something like FedEx or something. It wouldn't be a bad facility out there. I think Stanford was going to create like, around 2,500 jobs or 2,000 jobs, a facility out there that they voted out, by the way.
Well, I think you see more and more people these days flying in with their little jets and doing business in Portland and around, and then taking off again.
Yeah.
And they don't go into Portland because it's such a hassle for them.
Too expensive, it's free in Biddeford.
Yeah.
Mr.
As I said, I'm in favor of keeping the airport open. This thing about worrying about an airplane crashing into a school, airplanes don't weigh anything. They'll crumple like tinfoil if they ever hit that steel roof. So I really don't think that's a real issue.
FAA said it was fine.
They're full of fuel.
I had the
And it
problem.
goes up, not down, so I'm not concerned.
I was concerned, and I mean, I actually had the FAA tell me that school was okay, because I wasn't voting for it, the school going in either, but
Yeah.
they said it was fine. And my son lives right
As long
on,
as we
right
take
on,
the money.
he's on the approach path, so if you sit in his pool, you can float and watch the planes come over.
All
He has
right.
no
Oh,
problem.
nice.
Let's move on to our last question. Mike?
We're going to start with you, Mr. Bork. The topic area is the University of New England. UNE students wanted to know what they could do to get more involved in the community in Biddeford, seeing that it is a potential for a lot of the students to engage in local business. I just wanted to see what your input would be on that topic area.
Actually, I think that if the downtown does develop housing, these projects do go forward. It's undetermined right now because a lot of it's in federal and state hands for granting. But if it does go forward, it becomes great housing downtown for students. And the best way for them to engage with the city is to engage with the people that live downtown. Well, I'm not gonna, I've got a project coming up that I can't talk about because I don't want to blow my own horn, but we've got
Do you want me to tell them?
What's that?
Do you want me to tell?
No, I'm all set with that. But, you know, but we're going to be approaching UNE on some things downtown to try to get some students in the downtown area. And I think it's a great idea. Also, I got to say that I've heard a lot about the, and this isn't to be derogatory against UNE. I mean, you guys are doing a great job. It's a great facility. But a lot of I'm hearing about the for sale signs in Ward 1 and all that, which you talk about. You know, when the dormitories went in, consequently a lot of those signs went up. There used to be, UNE used to rent a lot of the property in Ward 1, off-season, you know, professors and students and all that, and faculty. And that really kind of changed the paradigm out there a little bit because people depend on that to pay their taxes or to make some revenue on those houses in the off-season or when they weren't using it in the summertime. And that changed a lot of things. So UNE has an impact. The way that you know, so in other words, if you guys have an impact in other parts of the city, you could have an impact on the downtown. And that's why I believe that, you know, we should really, and it's never talked about too much. You know, UNE is a great campus in the middle of our city, and it really, you know, I don't think that we're engaging enough with you guys. We're not interacting enough with you guys, with the city and the downtown. We should have projects and things and, you know, theater and things like that going on. We have some facility. Why not get together and do some things like that? It would be great culturally and, you know, for business as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't have a clue. Sorry. UNE's is sort of, it's a business that is in Biddeford, and it just, I don't see how to integrate UNE and the city of Biddeford any more than it is. I don't actually understand the question. How do you want to, what do you mean integrate with the city of Biddeford? Do you want to run the city or so? No, I don't know. Thank you. How's that for confusing?
Mr. Peaker?
Okay, let me take this one on. This is an old one for me, but I'll answer it in two ways. First of all, you know, the history with UNE is not a very nice one as far as the community called Hills Beach and the greater area there. There was a lot of animosity. The people who built down there, when they built the new facilities and whatnot, they didn't really involve the people that were down there. And remember, the university, when it expanded from St. Francis, was going into a community. And even though UNE is in Biddeford, it is what I consider a remote campus versus Bangor, where the campus is down in the middle of the city. You would have a hell of a lot easier time if it were down in the middle of the city. So you had some problems going in, including such things as the pilot program, pay in lieu of taxes, which Mrs. Featherman kind of messed up on. and which has had problems back and forth on monies to the city. The city itself, the bigger part of the city, really doesn't recognize that the university is down there. It's there, it's physically there, but even your president, she's going to hate me, would rather be associated with Portland than with Biddeford. And so you get the problem that the town and gown thing is absolutely, you know, two distinct type things. How do you bring that together? There's a lot of things you can do, things that you didn't do, you meaning UNE didn't do with their master plan, things that could be done in outreach by both. And I would propose to you that part of that could be accomplished by using whoever is the counselor from Ward 1 to try to affect more stuff between the university and the city.
Thank you. Mr. McCurry?
I was just down that way not too long ago, and don't really go that way too often, so it was quite amazing to see all the expansion that has gone on
It's
down
amazing,
there.
yeah, it is.
You know, maybe a nice open house, maybe to invite the citizens from, from the city and out to that area might be good also. You know, if the campus was in downtown, you would really help the economic development of downtown, because you'd be spending your dollars downtown. You know, trying to get the students back into the downtown area. And I remember years ago, there was a push on it. There was some good communications back. One Fetterman was around, and she gave updates on the college and stuff. I think we've lost that. I don't hear anything about the college anymore. I think it's out of sight, out of mind. And it used to be, needs to be a big function of the city, because it's a big part of it. You know, you got a lot of students out there that could definitely shop within the downtown and expand. And I remember when I was on waste management, there was a bunch of students that was actually into the school system teaching recycling and a whole bunch of other, things that we came up with. They were within the community. It was part of the groups that were trying to get within the city and within the schools. So I think we need to bring that back up, to create a better flow between us, because it's distant. I haven't been out there for years, and it's really grown.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Beautiful.
Are we being restrictive again?
It's 3 miles down the road.
Thank you. Any,
Yeah.
It's a long way from
One
the
quick
city.
comment?
Mr. Burke?
That's why I never moved out there.
Thank you. Just one last comment, and while everybody was talking, I was thinking about this. We're trying to develop 1.2 million square feet of mill space. That's raw space, and if some part of UNE was in the downtown area to make a better presence, some facet or some...
Talk.
Huh?
There was talk years
Yeah,
ago.
sure.
We tried with the pharmacy
that
store.
would be great, if there was some part of the UNE that was in the downtown area, whatever that may be. But I'm just saying that having a presence downtown, I think, would create better relationship and more awareness and all that. So just an idea. Thank you.
Tried to put the school down.
Thank you. Any other additional comments?
Actually, John, there is somebody on the solid waste committee that is a member, is a student at UNE.
Yeah, there was like a half a dozen. They went
And
into all the
they do
schools.
go into the schools teaching recycling to the kids and stuff, so
Yeah.
they're trying.
That's good.
No, they were doing it, back years ago. So,
One-
which is good.
One of the things that we talked about, and I think as far as the community goes, the community that sees it is the community that's in Ward 1.
Right.
And a lot of times, they don't see the good points in that. What they see is the kids that do not have a code of ethics that they've signed. And so, they're building bonfires on the beach at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. They're racing around in the parking lots down there where, when the people are trying to sleep and all that. And those kinds of things do not purport the image that UNE would like. And I think that's the real problem, that between at least the citizens, and you look at citizens being those people that are living down in Ward 1, okay? And I think that both sides could do a lot more to facilitate the fact that, you know, you have a university there and it's got to have resources like crazy.
Right.
And you ought to be stepping up that, you know, and last point, one of the things that bother me, you've got a master plan down there on all this building that the people agreed to have. And one of the things that you'd never done was that you authorized in the original 5 scholarships to Biddeford citizens. I don't think you've ever done them. Never done them. You had also problems with paying your pilot. And those kinds of things stick and make you look elitist to the people who are, you know, in the city.
Okay, thank you. We're going to return back to...
Any?
Yep, I'm all set.
One last comment. We love you. Thanks for being in the city. Good.
That's right.
I just want to interject. Part of what we're doing here is an effort to do what this question asks, and that's to integrate the university into the community in new and different ways, and also our Office of Citizenship and Civic Engagement. We run mentoring programs in all the schools, tutoring programs in all the schools, and so we're there. Maybe we need to do more to help make you aware of the ways that we are there, but we certainly appreciate your comments about ways that we can be there and be there in a better way for the community as well. Having said that, we move to our closing comments. That brings us back to Mr. Swanton. You have 3 minutes each to say whatever you would like. Maybe you've gotten yourself warmed up. If you'd like to use your 3 minutes, but it's up to you. And then, gentlemen, each of you will have 3 after that.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'd like to run for re-election. Why am I running for re-election? I wish I was better on camera. I'm not. I enjoy doing the business of the city. I do my homework. I take it very seriously. And yeah. I don't know. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, say good night.
Good night. Good night, Gracie.
You know, I just...
Why are you running against me, Ron?
Well, I told you why I was running against you. I was, you know, I got back into this because as I said to Mike, I was not going to let him run by himself so that there was no opposition. We have had at times 4, 5, 6 wards that had no opposition. And that doesn't give the voters an opportunity to say, hey, you know, somebody's got to have different thoughts on doing some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And why not listen to them and then I have something to vote for. When there's no opposition, there's nothing to vote for. I believe that in getting to the, you know, in going back into it, that 3 or 4 of us can make a difference and get mainly this spending under control. And it isn't just a situation of cutting this and cutting that, etc. It's bringing these down into the levels. For example, if you're sitting there with a grant and the federal government gets rid of the grant, then don't do what the grant says. If the state doesn't give you money to do something, don't do it. We've got to bring people down. By that I mean the numbers of people that work in downtown Biddeford. You don't do that by wholesaling firing people. What we want to do, somebody leaves, can we combine their jobs? Can we give the responsibility to somebody else, etc.? But not sit there with the budget and then just turn right around and hire somebody else. Or, even more important, When you hire somebody like the superintendent for the first time, you don't pay them what the person leaving the job after 50 years is getting. Those are all savings. When a person leaves the school system who's making $50,000 and a $25,000 person comes in, that's a change. Those are the things that I'm talking about. That's why I'm running again, and that's why I'm going to try. You know, I got only one thing I'm interested in, and that's bringing down the spending. Thank you.
Mr. McCurry?
First of all, thank you. Thank you for putting this on, giving us all a chance to speak and be heard and give people an option. So first of all, thank you for that. People who know me know my record. I do my homework quite well. I like dealing with the numbers. I don't leave anything unturned. And I'm a very prompt person. As you guys all know, I was here well earlier than everybody else. I do not like being late. Big proponent of controlling spending. Most of my past votes have proven that in the past. So I just would like to ask the voters for their support on November 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Bourque?
Thank you. Also, thank you all for doing this. I remember the last time we had debates, well, I only ran opposed once my first term, and it was Roger Bopan. I'd just like to send up my condolences to his family. He was a great man. Roger Pancho. Anyway, I've been serving the city for 4 years. It's a wonderful experience to be involved. If I win again or not, I mean, the experience is great. To be on the inside of the city is not like being on the outside. You see so many things differently. You grow respect for the staff, you know, the department heads, and people in the city that make things happen, and they're actually quite amazing, most of them. I feel one way that the city could change would be to change the way the city is managed, and I think that's what you talk about as well. That, you know, if the city was managed in a different way, I mean, not just the fiscal budget stuff, but the whole city, it could change. Just by directing, like I was saying earlier, monies towards local pockets, and keeping the money in the downtown, helping people support themselves in their own city. I think it's a responsibility. I think that a city manager should be 110% orange and black for the city of Biddeford. And we need to engage as a council to make that happen. And that's our job too, Ron, as councilors. You guys have been there, okay? To make sure that, you know, if you know, new blood in the city might make a new result, and I think it's important to think that way. I just, like I say, I made many friends. A few enemies, I imagine, that maybe I don't know or not, but I'm always looking over my shoulder. But I like to speak my mind, and I think as logically as I can to do the right thing for everybody, as many people concerned as I can. There's no rule of law that, you know, that serves everyone. That's impossible. So just look for the greater good and do the best that you can for everyone concerned. Love the city, choose to live here. And like I say, I'll live the rest of my life here probably. Hopefully, I'd like to serve another term to get some work done that we started. And I'd like to see the direction of the mill development. I'd love that part of the process. So November 5th, I'm also, just like John, looking for some support. And we'll see what happens then. Thank you.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time and your answers today. And students, thank you for your questions. And public, I hope this has been informative and helpful. And we look forward to seeing you on our next fora. Thank you.